Thank you. So, hello everyone, whatever time of the day it may be for you where you are. Welcome to G19.5. Last year we had G18.5 as the first attempt. And actually I've taken quite a few of the slides that at the time Paul and Kathy used to welcome everybody to G18.5, or as it was known then, G19 Kickstart, because I don't think there was too much missing there, and in a way it's an interesting attempt to see how much things have changed over the last year, or how much we can sort of continue where we were. So last year the title was 12 years out and 12 years forward, so now logically it should be 13 years out and 12 years forward, which makes 25. What's trending and what's pending in grassroots network science. Feels a bit like, speaking out in a big black hole, because I'm not completely sure. I can see there's 33 of you. Maybe all of you are seasoned GLEON conference goers. So then, in fact, there's nothing much to tell you because you know. But I'll just struggle on anyway for those that may be new and just want to see, what is it people do in GLEON. So this is like screenshots from G18.5, G19 Kickstart about a year ago. So you can see people being there, listening, participating, and I hope we will do just as well this year. So the message really still is, it's an experiment. It's still an experiment. Last year was the first attempt. Why do we do this? Because more traditionally, we have all hands meeting where we're physically in the same building. At some point, we came up with the idea, let's meet halfway the two all hands meetings. Let's meet up in cyberspace with the following bullet points as purposes for doing this. To meet up, say hello to your GLEON friends, which there are many. Provide an opportunity for a heads up what's happening in GLEON. This case, slightly different from last year, over the 3 days, so we have today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, we'll have 6 plenary talks to really showcase achievements, scientific achievements in GLEON, because it's something that was felt between those of us that organized this meeting. And of course, I should say at the start, this is Liz Ryder, David Hamilton, Fang Pang, and myself. So we felt that if you go to an all-hands meeting, it's very different from traditional scientific meetings, which is, we'll come to that, which is one of the real attractions of going there, because rather than sitting down and listening, you actually actively participate. But sometimes we feel, the opportunity to really present to each other, this is what we've achieved by doing GLEON-style science. That opportunity was missing somewhat, and perhaps those, virtual meetings will develop into a place where we can do that. And this year is the first attempt with, I think, 6 very interesting talks, 2 today, 4 to come. We'll see, what all of you think. And then finally, other than the talks, it's an opportunity for the GLEON working groups to get together and talk about progress since the last meeting leading up to the next one. So in a way to prepare ourselves, hit the ground running once we're in Australia in December. This is a slide I've used internally to convince the Dean Director when I needed money for my lake platform. So why lakes? In Geneva, as you can see on the top, in a way I don't need to explain why lakes are important, because we sit right at the border of Lake Geneva, which is the biggest lake in Western Europe, at least the biggest volume, because it's quite deep. So why lakes? They provide crucial ecosystem services to society, the true hotspots of biodiversity, and they act as sentinels of change because they integrate information from all over their watershed. So that's something we've all used, I guess, when we write proposals. If the authorities care about monitoring the state of the environment where they are, the best thing is to monitor your lake, because nature will do half the work for you. It's all nicely integrated through the watershed in the lake. So monitor your lake and you know how your country is doing. Lakes are true hotspots of biodiversity, but the decline in biodiversity in freshwater ecosystems is even faster than in terrestrial and marine systems, because lakes being so central in the watershed, they're under immense environmental pressure from us. So if we are to understand and manage lakes in a changing world, we must study them, and we must study them at appropriate scales of time and space. I didn't really realize this myself, but when the GSA asked me, can you write a blog for the GSA blog and introduce yourself? I went back to the start and I realized throughout my career, this is actually something I've been doing. I worry about the appropriate scales of time and space in lake ecosystems. And that seems to fit very well with what we do in GLEON. And then I say progress requires an interdisciplinary approach, very typical of GLEON, but in the true spirit of limnology, which was founded. Limnology was founded by Alphonse Forel in the Lake Geneva region. Hello? Okay, I'll just continue. About 100 years ago, and we need innovation in sampling and monitoring techniques. Because when Forel wrote his book, Le Léman, the first limnological monography on Lake Geneva, as you can see in the pictures, we really haven't changed all that much in the way we study lakes, whereas the challenges for the lake ecosystems really have gone up. So I do think, we can improve things, and this is where I think GLEON comes in. So here's the mission statement for GLEON. It conducts innovative science by sharing and interpreting high-resolution sensor data to understand, predict, and communicate the role and response of lakes in a changing global environment. A few things that strike me. I looked it up again this morning, and it's something we discussed a few years ago. What is our mission statement? Innovative science, like I just said, yes, that's what we need to meet the challenges of lakes in the 21st century. But we do innovative science, first of all, by sharing data. So that in itself, the way we work together is innovative. So it's not just that we have innovative sensors and buoys and platforms, but the way we work together. And I think that is crucial for GLEON. So we aim to understand and ultimately to predict and to communicate the role and response of lakes in this changing world. So network lake science, that is sort of the short version of the mission statement, the one that goes on your t-shirt or your coffee mug. And the word that is underlined here is networked, because we often say we're three networks in GLEON. First of all, we're a network of lakes and lakes with sensors on buoys or observatories. We find them, I'm not completely sure it's up to date because this morning the GLEON website was under maintenance. But let's say this is up to date. We are on 6 continents. You can't do much more than that in 55 countries. You can see we're still, the dominance is in North America and in Europe, but we are spreading more and more also to other continents. And there's even a dot now on Antarctica. So typical pictures of buoys, some more simple, some more complicated, more expensive. They come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. And the strength of having buoys in so many lakes is that now we can compare the behavior of lakes under impact of a changing environment, not just in one lake, where you're never sure if what you get is representative. We can do it in many lakes. We're a network of lakes and sensors, and of course the sensors give us data, so we're a network of data. And the data result in papers, as will come. But above all, we're a network of people. If you look at the graph, the bottom left, that's pretty impressive, right? It's still growing almost at the same rate as GLEON has been growing since the beginning. You can see in the pie chart on the right how many countries we are. So I think this in itself is a sign of a healthy network, because it's not a network like some others that is decaying. It's a network that is still gaining, people. And as you can see, many young people. About a third of GLEON are graduate students. And of course, they are the life and blood of GLEON, not only in the future, but already today. So what keeps us together and helps shapes the science? Face-to-face and virtual meetings. Well, at the end is the second time we do this. Governance structure, I'll come to this. Working group activities. The working groups are the heart and soul of GLEON. And again, for those of you that may be listening that are new, I'll explain in one slide what working groups mean and how they function. The ethos of data sharing and collaboration. Team science, like I said, if you look at the mission statement, this is actually the first word that comes up. It's about being a team, about collaborating. That is essential for GLEON. Then the student association is going to be a separate slide, and actually there's going to be a separate introduction, I think tomorrow, if not on Thursday. So I don't have to say too much, but it's true that the graduate students are extremely important for how GLEON works and continue to grow and operate. And then equally important and equally maybe unique for an organization like GLEON is the CCC, the Collaborative Climate Committee. In GLEON, through the CCC, we care about the people that come to meetings. Everybody that comes to a meeting should feel at home, should feel, at ease, so that she or he can participate in all the working group activities. And there's a special committee that makes sure that every time we learn from previous meetings and every time we try to improve. So here's something about the structure of GLEON. And look at the big word at the bottom, GLEON community. GLEON is a grassroots network. That's how it started, and that's what it still is today. So yes, in the other boxes, there's committees that all play their role in running GLEON, but in the end, it's all the members. The hundreds of members that we have today, they determine what happens, they determine how we do things in GLEON, because it's all bottom up. I've mentioned the Collaborative Climate Committee and GSA. Again, there's going to be one slide each, but there's going to be separate introductions or separate progress reports, if you like, tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. And today, what I try to do is also to represent a little bit about what we do in the steering committee. What else is there to see in this slide? Working groups, right in the middle there, because that's where the science is being done. That's where the science that you hear about today probably, found its roots. Okay, this is actually a slide in transition. This is the GLEON steering committee. So what's the steering committee? It's just people that say, I have some time and I care about GLEON. I'd be happy to play my part to help GLEON staying active, healthy, growing. We just had steering committee elections. There's a whole procedure for that. So we have operating procedures and principles that we follow, also in something like elections. So of the faces here, I still use this slide because I didn't want to sort of miss the opportunity to say those are the people that over the past few years, the past year, have tried to lead GLEON. So you see Paul and Kathy. Kathy just rotated off as co-chair. I come on. There's Elvira, Lisette, Alo, Fang Pang, Blaise, and John for GSA, although this is also in transition. David Hamilton, Matt Hipsey, Kaylin Carey, Tom Harmon for CCC. Again, there's a new face there now, and Evelyn Geiser. All of them, we're very grateful for all they have done and all they do for GLEON. And one thing that you can see by looking at the pictures and the map, what we try to do in the steering committee is to be representative of the diversity. Diversity in gender, just go around and look at the pictures. Diversity in where people live and work. So we try to be in every continent where we have GLEON members. We try to have somebody on the steering committee. Africa is the obvious omission at the moment. And then newly elected Catherine O'Reilly and Rafa Marce. 2 pictures. Lisette, who was on the previous picture, has been re-elected, so she was one of the 3 people that got elected recently. And then Stephen Sadro is now leading the CCC. So a few new faces. GSA, I would say all of us in GLEON are proud of the GSA. If you come to a GLEON meeting on the first day, that's the people you see. They run workshops. They're very active in developing the science, in training the next cohort of other students that come and join GLEON. And they're very active in all the working groups. I think it's fair to say that most projects without grad student involvement don't really make too much progress. So GSA, and again, there's going to be an introduction, there's going to be progress about what they've been up to this week, but we're all very proud of the GSA. Where have we been in the past for the real meetings, so to speak? The all hands meetings, you can see them listed here. GLEON 20 coming up in December. Far away, well, far away at least for many of us, but a beautiful place. So Rottnest Island off the coast of Perth in Australia, organized by Matt Hipsey and Justin Brooks, amongst others. And also here you can see we try to go to different places. Having said that, financially, it's often attractive to have a meeting, say, North America, because we'll come to that. That's where still the majority of the funding is coming from. So this is one of the points of discussion in the steering committee. How do we continue to organize the meetings so that we do justice to the different continents and still do justice to the limited means we have to get people there. Working groups, you can see different names here. I remember doing an introduction in Mohonk last December, just before people had to choose where to go, which working group to choose, at least for day 1 to start. So again, if you're for the first time listening to what we do, if you come to a GLEON meeting, probably right from the start, day 1, working groups will introduce themselves by saying this is what our interest is in the lake research we do. So there's going to be a little introduction, and then people have to make an initial choice. Doesn't mean you have to stay there, you can do whatever you like, but make an initial choice to go to a working group. A working group provides some structure to GLEON. In the end, the work, the science is done in projects, but all of the projects are based within working groups. So again, to have a little bit of structure, because there's quite a few people that like to see some structure at least. And most working groups, I believe, will present themselves this week as well. I've seen, reservoir lake management, I've seen modeling, the theory group, lake physics, I think together with models, lake metabolism, citizen science. So you'll be informed about progress on projects that are ongoing in the different working groups. And here just a few pictures of people coming together, discussing new ideas. In a working group, yes, there's ongoing projects, and you can go to Project Tracker on the GLEON website to see what are the projects that are ongoing. This is a system like a traffic light. If it's green, it's a project that is fairly new. If you feel attracted to the project, you're very welcome to join. Just contact the contact person. If it's orange, it's a project that is well underway, but if you really feel you have something to offer, you could still join. And a project that's on red means a project that is closing, that is right in the publication. But every GLEON meeting, we put a real emphasis on new ideas, new projects, and then whoever is there, you can participate, you can even take the lead, and hopefully, bring it to completion. I just need to check what time it is. Okay, I'll finish in a few minutes then. Back to the coffee mug slogan, Network Lake Science. We've emphasized network because we're a network of lakes and sensors that bring a network of data, and above all, we're a network of people that collaborate. The science, this is a graph that Paul and Kathy made last year. So again, there's probably more up-to-date information, but I couldn't access the website this morning. But yes, you can see the number of papers since the beginning, it's growing. Some years are higher than others. But what is interesting to see is the number of papers that actually take data from more than one site. In the beginning, that was very rare. And now you see actually more and more purple bars coming up. And that is one of the ideas, of course, of GLEON, that, like I said, if you compare between lakes, you probably get a much better understanding of how lakes function, how lakes respond to environmental change than if you look at your own individual lake. And whereas GLEON started really as a network of people working with sensors in lakes, more and more that is not necessarily the case. If you look at the number of GLEON people that are members and the number of people with a buoy or a platform, there's more people without a buoy, without sensors than with. Doesn't mean you cannot participate, and more we see projects, you know, some of the early ones were Spring Blitz and Storm Blitz that will be discussed this week, where people go out and maybe sample in traditional ways. But by bringing data from different lakes together, again, we get a much better understanding of lakes. And here are a few examples of papers that have come out resulting from GLEON over the last few years. You can see probably people you know from the network. You can, you know, see, yeah, I put one paper on top that sort of is hiding other papers now. Doesn't matter, you can go to the website and look up papers that have been produced. I put the paper on the top left for two reasons. It's a very recent paper. It's a paper with more than, well, not more, nearly 200 authors. So the first author is Evi Mansuki in my group, and it's really GLEON inspired. That's why I show it here to finish off with. First of all, it was, you know, it's many people that work together on lakes, and we get messages that we couldn't get from, you know, working alone and working on one or just a few lakes. So the size, the scale is important. And the second thing I'll bring it up here is this, that GLEON has not only sort of developed as GLEON, it has inspired many other projects in different continents. People from within GLEON that took the spirit of GLEON to their own place and developed similar projects. And we've seen SAFER in North and South America. We've seen NetLake in Europe. NetLake led to Mantal, which is now 12 new PhDs working on extreme and episodic events in lakes, the risk of tipping points. So it's another sort of real outcome of people that had the idea for GLEON now a number of years ago, and you can see how active it still is. And really, that's where I would like to finish my introduction. And Van Pan, can people ask questions?
Yes, I think people can ask questions. Just switch on your speaker. If you are not speaking, please mute your speaker.
And how do I stop sharing my screen? Full share.
Just press your share screen again.
You still see my screen or not? You do?
I do.
I can see Gesa nodding, but I press pause.
Wait a bit. And if you like to ask questions, you probably can you can wave your hand, and